we had to have a dialogue as a people, we would have to bring in other people that have abused us.
Sure.
As Black people.
Yeah.
If we now had to say, okay, we are healing as a nation, we no longer want to be this and this and that.
Yeah.
Who hurt us? Do you think those people that hurt us want to confront the things they've done? They don't. So we're just going to be passive-aggressive in corporate.
Yeah.
And act like I love Mariki, but I don't. Legacy is a very basic concept. People know what legacy is. And its basic definition is what you leave behind.
Mm-hmm.
What people normally say is that it's what you leave behind after you die.
Mm-hmm.
And when people talk about legacy, they think about properties, estates, will and testament,
Yes.
trusts, and all of those things. But really, legacy is what you get to live out in your lifetime, to leave behind. Hello, everyone. My name is Khanyisa, and welcome to the Legacy Collective with Khanyisa. I'm going to be your host for this season and on this channel and every other channel you find your podcast. Because it's the first episode of the Legacy Collective, I'm joined by my confidante, Liz, and she's going to be driving this conversation with me, getting to know me, getting to delve deep into what the collective is about and what we're going to be doing on this channel. Liz, thank you for joining me.
To finally be sitting here is like a, oh my gosh, kind of moment. I am so excited. But before we even get into the nitty-gritties of why we are here and why you decided to start this podcast, let's start off by telling your audience who you are. Because like you said, you are going to be, the host for this platform. So I think it's imperative that they know who they are dealing with, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely.
So let's get into it. Who is Khanyisa?
Okay, so just on a personal level, Khanyisa is a daughter, a firstborn daughter of 3, to my parents, still alive, both my mom and my dad, a wife to my husband, a mother, a bereaved mother. I lost my 7-year-old daughter, and so I'm a mother in waiting as well. And I'm a sister, I'm a friend, I'm a confidant. And so on a professional level, I am a social legacy coach. I do that with corporates. I do that with individuals and families. And so we help them craft what corporates call their corporate social investment projects, as well as individuals with their giving back in charitable giving. So that's what I do on a professional level. But I think above everything else, I'm a child of God. I am saved, forgiven, sanctified, chosen, blessed, through Christ. Yeah, so that's who I am.
Amen. Okay, Mrs. Khanyisa. So I have a few questions, just to loosen up, but so that people also get to just know you on a more deeper level, right? So the first question I have is, if you were to be a cartoon character, which one will it be and why?
Cartoon character?
Yes, like any cartoon.
I think I would be a pineapple living under the sea. SpongeBob SquarePants. And here's why. SpongeBob SquarePants is a guy that has no clue what he's doing, but still shows up every day.
Right.
Yeah. I admire his confidence. The guy knows nothing about anything, but he still shows up.
But he still shows up.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. So
I think that's beautiful. I think it's beautiful. I think I like the fact that he's also very easygoing.
Yeah.
And in such a chaotic world that we live in, we all need an easygoing moment.
Yep.
Right?
That's true.
Okay. So our next question is, if you could meet any living person, or they could be dead, right, and have dinner with them to just have a candid conversation with that particular person, which person would you choose and why?
Sure. I think I would love to have dinner with Michelle Obama's mother. I'd like to understand what it takes to raise a powerhouse like that, a kingmaker.
Someone of that caliber.
Someone of that caliber. I admire her greatly, and it's mostly how she's built a lot of things that are in the background. We get to see, what we see, the surface level stuff, but I think she's built a lot of things, and I would like to see and meet her mother and understand what it took to raise her.
Wow. That's actually very interesting, because oftentimes when we see very influential people, we don't think about what got them there, especially the people that got them there. So, very interesting. Okay, next question. What is the most common thing that people in your life say about you?
The most common thing people say in my life say about me is that my laugh is contagious.
Is it really contagious?
I'm not gonna laugh.
Well, it is contagious. I mean, I'm laughing to laugh. Well, I think if I will say that, I think they get it right because it is very contagious. Okay, next question. Would you rather be invisible or be able to read people's minds?
I would rather read people's minds.
Mm-hmm. And why is that?
The rate and the level at which Mujolo is going in this country, I would read people's minds and sell it as a service.
And that's cool.
Yeah.
Because you'd read their people's minds and say, Sisi,
Puma shower, there's no water.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think it'll make things so much easier.
Yeah.
Okay, on to our next question.
Sure.
If you had to delete all apps on your phone,
okay,
and only leave 3 apps, which 3 apps would you choose to leave?
Sure. So I get to keep just 3 apps.
You only get to keep 3.
And everything else goes?
Yep.
Okay. So I can, the Bible can go because I've got a physical Bible.
Makes sense.
That's fine. For basic communication, I think I'd keep WhatsApp.
Mm-hmm.
I do a lot of my learning on YouTube.
So you'd keep
YouTube as well.
Okay.
This is hard. I'd also keep Balance, my meditation app.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Girl said, I'm going for holistic being.
Yeah.
She said, balance and learning and, you know. Okay, on to our next question. What is the best piece of advice that you have ever received?
Pray.
Yeah. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy.
To the point.
Just like that.
To the
Pray.
point.
Okay, then let's spin it around a little bit.
Okay.
If you were to give advice, let's say you were given a class and you had a moment to teach them just one particular thing.
Okay.
What would that thing be and why?
I think I would teach how to develop grit. Yeah. The ability to just not give up. Because you will have seasons of roughness, of joy, all kinds of seasons.
Absolutely.
And I think the people that get to stay and stick it out are people that just don't give up.
Yeah.
So if I were to teach a class, I would teach on how to develop grit. Yeah.
Wow. One last question before we actually get into the Legacy Collective. I think I'm just interested in who your role models were when you were growing up. Like, so very articulate, very, you know? So I think I'd love to know who are your role models.
So I had 2 role models growing up.
Okay.
And my first role model was Zola 7.
Oh,
I love that guy. Like,
you wouldn't expect that.
My 10-year-old loved that guy.
Is it?
And I think so. So Zola 7 was this guy that went around, listened to people's stories, and made their dreams come true in 3 days.
Absolutely.
Right? And I now know, in retrospect, why that resonated.
Why you
with me,
resonated,
right?
With that. Yeah.
And really, it's what I do in my career. So it's not in 3 days. But sometimes it is actually in a day, or sometimes in 6 months or so. But I, in my work, am a conduit of people that have needs and people that have got means. And I then facilitate that. And so I think for some reason, my 10-year-old self was attracted to that. And I knew that this is something that I'm interested in. The second role model was Oprah Winfrey. And look at us.
I see it.
Look at us now.
I see it. I see it. But also thinking about Zola and the kind of work that Oprah does.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
Yeah. So with Oprah, yes, there was that element of philanthropy in it. But also I think I admired how she was able to take conversations with normal, ordinary people and turn them into really impactful stories.
Absolutely.
I think I admired that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so every time, actually, even now, when I do the work that I do, I remember that my 10-year-old self was here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Before I could be here.
Yeah. For some reason, I knew I was going to be exactly where I am. And I think today is one of those days where it's full circle.
Full circle moment. Oh my God.
So there's this song by, I think, Kabza the Small. That's Imithandazo. And there's a line there that says, Lentonge yetu sinikiwe. Right? That line is so powerful.
It is.
Because every time I think about the challenges I have to go through, I remember that this thing has been given to me a long time ago. Before I could even articulate it, it was there.
Wow.
Yeah. So those are my two role models.
That is so beautiful. And the fact that, as you round it up, you are capturing it through a line of a song. And that line is actually so powerful.
It is.
Because oftentimes we forget, we find ourselves comparing ourselves to other people. We find ourselves dealing with doubt but I think the reminder of the fact that this thing has been given to me is what keeps you rooted. It's what keeps you going.
Yeah.
So let's just get straight.
And I think it was also important with the work that we are starting for me to always remember that there will be a Liz. Yeah. There will be someone else. This one has been given to me.
Yeah.
Whether we are going that way or that way and someone else is going forward or behind, this one has been given to me and I'm going to be the steward of it the way it should,
It should be stewarded. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I love that. I think things done from a place of contentment always bear great fruits.
Yeah.
Because you do it with an understanding of the fact that this is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
That's absolutely amazing. Okay. So enough about Khanyisa. Let's now talk about their collective, the Legacy Collective, which is why we are here. I think I'd love for you to explain what that is. What is the Legacy Collective? But I think before you even explain the phrase Legacy Collective as one, what is legacy?
Sure. So legacy is a very basic concept. People know what legacy is. And its basic definition is what you leave behind. What people normally say is that it's what you leave behind after you die. And when people talk about legacy, they think about properties, estates, will and testament, trusts, and all of those things. But really, legacy is what you get to live out in your lifetime, to leave behind, right? And so when you go to the gym, you're building a legacy. When you eat what you eat and you feed your mind with what you read, you're building a legacy. The marriage that you are in, the marriage that you're building a legacy. How you parent your children, you're building a legacy, etc. Right? Where you choose to work, the passions you choose to pursue, you are building a legacy. So it's far beyond what we end up having on paper when someone is dead. When you are living right now, it's part of your legacy,
a legacy
building. Yeah.
That is actually so interesting because I don't think when we think of legacy, we think of things like going to the gym.
Yeah.
Like that is such an interesting way of actually explaining what legacy is because it is true. When we think legacy, we are thinking, that's something I'll have to leave once I've passed on. So let's get more into what you mean when you're saying each and every single day we are living out a legacy.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So before we explain what the Legacy Collective is, let me just give you context. In my line of work, when I sit down with someone and we craft whatever, let's say they want to give back to the community and they want to create a foundation and take their wealth elsewhere where it's going to be impactful. One of the things we need to do is to look into what drives them, what hurt them, where do they come from, what's their background, what moves them, right? And most of the time you will find that people are giving from a place of trauma and they term that trauma their passion when it really isn't, right? People will give from a place of where they come from, or instead of where they are going. And I think because we as a society are so engraved with giving and the spirit of Ubuntu, it's very easy to overlook what your motives are when you give, right? And this started to make me think and consider that legacy is actually a collective concept, right? And hence the Legacy Collective. Actually, the Legacy Collective is in 3 parts. So let me explain the first part. And the first part has a definition that has 4 pillars. So we are saying your legacy exists in a collective of 4 pillars. This is the personal legacy. This is where you come from, your identity, how you show up, your mindset, your energy set, your traumas, the things that drive you, the things that you're passionate about. That's your personal legacy. The second one is your relational legacy. So your relational legacy is how you relate to your spouse, how you relate to your friends, your acquaintances, how you parent your children, how you relate to your mother, etc. So literally how you show up relationally. That's your relational legacy. So the third one is your professional legacy. And sometimes one can succeed and the one lags behind. Right? So your professional legacy is your successes, your career successes, the wealth building strategies, the financial literacy, all of the works that you put together for you to be successful in your profession, career, business, the works.
Okay.
The fourth one is social legacy. This is how you impact the world outside of yourself, outside of your circle. It may be through money that you give to other people. It may be through opinions and education that you spread across in public platforms. It may be through the things that you do that don't affect you and your immediate family.
Okay.
Right? So you are a creative.
Yes.
And you would know that the stories that you choose to tell as an actress, as a director, producer, are part of your social legacy. Because you are crafting a narrative that other people are going to buy into. And that becomes something that can echo over time. I was saying to you earlier that I don't think someone like Mfundi Mvundla understands the impact he had with writing generations. Right? So most of us who are non-Guni speaking know Zulu because of generations. Right? And that's a social legacy that I hope he knows about. Most of us grew up looking at Karabo Moroka and thinking, we're going to grow up, go to school, and we're going to have a corner office and boss men around. That's the part I look forward to. Because growing up in Limpopo and 8 o'clock, that's the woman you see outside of everything else that's around you. You think, this is what I aspire to become.
What I can.
And so that is social legacy that he built over time with what he produced.
What he produced.
And
I think to a certain extent, he does get it.
I hope he does.
The generation, the legacy after the whole revamp. So I think he actually he has an idea of the fact that I'm making social impact. But I think all of these legacies are interconnected. Or at least I believe so. I mean, I'm a creative. That's my profession. But through my profession, I'm then able to make a social impact, which then forms part of my social legacy. So let's speak about the interconnectedness. That's the word. Legacies of these legacies.
So here's how they're interconnected. One can support the other, birth the other, but similarly, one can defile the other. Someone can have a contested legacy because of one of their pillars within. So I'm going to give you an example. And we're not going to use the names of the people because one, I think a name is a very expensive asset that one gets to build for themselves.
Absolutely.
Two, the breaking up of families is not something that we speak lightly about. Right. So we know of a sportsman who has announced with his wife that they're getting a divorce. Okay. So this man is a great sportsman who probably will go down will go down in the books of history as one of the greatest sportsmen South Africa and the continent has ever seen, right? And that's his professional legacy. Now, he has powered his social legacy with his professional legacy. Because he's done well in his career, he was then able to give back into communities, into society through his foundation. And if you look at the pillars of his foundation, it's really things that he himself had struggled with. Right? And those stem from the personal legacy. His traumas, his wounds, the poverty, the brokenness, the passions, etc. So while his professional legacy powered through money and influence and so on, his social legacy, the social legacy was also powered by the personal legacy of where he comes from, because that's normally what we do. Right. And so now we are now being introduced to his relational legacy, being in a place where people are now starting to question a few things about the man. Right. So that is putting his collective legacy in sort of danger, in a shaky space. Right. But if you go deeper into it, you will realize that the things that he was giving into as his social legacy were struggles of his personal legacy. And when and if they remained unhealed, filtered through into his relational legacy.
Makes sense.
If you read anyway,
Yeah.
people that are speculating, and even in his own books, what could have happened in his marriage, those things are the things that come from the personal legacy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So sometimes it's it's why I'm saying sometimes one legacy pillar
can contest the other.
Can contest with the other, can defile the other. Sometimes it can support the other. And that's why we are saying at the Legacy Collective, let's look at our legacies together.
Collectively.
Yeah. Right?
Okay.
And I think the personal legacy is the most important one because
it's the grounding of
it's the grounding. It definitely is. Because everything else will pour out of that legacy. Yeah. So those are the 4 pillars that we are going to be looking at on the legacy. Yeah, the Legacy Collective.
Wow. That is some hectic stuff.
It is hectic.
That is so hectic, especially if you think about how dangerous it is for the grounding, which is the personal legacy, to be unhealed, and then you still need to operate in these
the highest level of your professional legacy and maintain it and contest for it. Yeah. It's hectic. And one other thing is that now his social legacy, now his children will form part of kids that come from a certain home.
Yeah.
Right? It'll form part of the stats of our society. That's not intentional.
I don't think it ever is.
No one wakes up and says, I want to be a broken person. And I want to walk away from my children and I want to add to the stats of this and that. No one wants that. So, but by virtue of that happening in his relational place and his personal space, then it has led to a different kind of social legacy that was not intended. Yeah.
Sure. And I think there is danger in just keeping things as they are. But I think more than anything, I'm becoming more, maybe tolerant is not the word, but empathetic.
Yeah.
Like the realization that people's emotional cups are not filled.
Yeah.
And that's why they can show up as great, great people in their profession, but still lack in their personal life. I think, just hearing you sharing this is making me more empathetic.
Yeah.
Because for people. But at the same time, we're not making excuses for them. I think I'm realizing that our traumas are not our fault.
Yeah.
Right? But it is unfortunate that we have to carry the responsibility to heal them. Because, I cannot begin to imagine what will happen to the children.
Everyone's legacy is defiled.
Yeah.
We're all broken.
Yeah.
And no one is broken more than the other.
True.
And sometimes it looks more broken because you're in a public space or something else is, you know what I mean? It's something else is more prominent than the other. And then you think this other one is broken. You would think that if you're not an alcoholic, you are better because your addiction is in private. Everyone's legacy is defiled, but there's grace.
Yeah.
There's grace. So the second aspect of the Legacy Collective, right, is a community that we are attempting to build. And this community is a community of people that are saying, oh, but hang on. I want to build a healed legacy.
A healed legacy. Okay.
A legacy that I have thought about, that I have intentionally carried out. What am I going to live? What has been left to me? And so together we're going to go on a journey where we're going to understand where we come from.
Yeah.
Generationally come from. What's wrong? What happened to us?
So what are the patterns?
Yeah. And what are we currently building? And what is it going to look like in the future? And ultimately, what are we going to be leaving to the next generation? So that will be what we call collectively the Legacy Collective.
Legacy.
Yeah, it'll be a community of people.
Yeah.
And then the third one would be a collection of legacy stories, because it's not all doom and nuts. It's not all doom and gloom. People have built really great things. People have been resilient. And I'm also looking forward to sharing those stories of resilience, of building legacies in different aspects of our lives. So we'll be having people that come on and we speak about the different kinds of legacies that they have built. Yeah. So that's those are the three parts of what the Legacy Collective is about.
I think I'm more moved by the third part
Yeah.
of the Legacy Collective, because I had a conversation with someone this morning, right?
Yeah.
And she was telling me that, when we think about legacy, right? As you said, we think about things that we are going to leave behind, right?
Portfolios and properties.
You get what I'm saying? And I was like to her, oh, actually, I learned that it's more than just things that you want to leave behind. It's actually how you are living right now in this moment. And the person was like to me, I hear you, but I think it's so hard for me to consider legacy as what I live out right now when I am a Black person with no blueprint and are trying to figure things out, right? And then she was like,
and that's our legacy.
Yeah. And she's like, I think oftentimes we become so judgmental of people trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, yeah, it's just unfortunate that whether we are conscientized or not, the now is also a part of our legacy that we are living out. And she was like, I hear you. But thing is, it's so hard.
It is hard.
When you haven't seen, like, when you don't have a framework of sort.
Yeah.
It is really a difficult thing because you also don't know. Like, you're just taking each day as it comes. You literally just arrive. You just arrived, and now you need to figure all of these things out. And you also don't know whether you're doing it right, whether you're doing it wrong.
Yeah. I think the most important thing is to give ourselves grace.
Mm-hmm.
Really. We really all just arrived.
Yeah.
And I think also the first realization that you just arrived and you have no blueprint is enough. Then you need the courage. The courage to say, okay, I find myself here. This is not what I'm going to pass down. What am I going to do?
Yeah. Yeah.
You are not going to be swept into the river and just think that whatever I got, everyone else will get, and we move. So that's what we're actually trying to do. Yeah.
And I think I loved what the lady also said. She's like, I love the fact that, I mean, there is this thing where Black people don't have the resources. And for instance, I can tell you that I'm very aware of what my traumas are. I'm very aware of what my triggers are. But with the same awareness, I still find myself accepting things that I shouldn't be accepting, with the knowledge that I shouldn't be accepting them. So I think for me, that was an encapsulation of how dangerous and unhealed legacy, personal, professional, is. But so when we talk about the danger of unhealed legacies.
So one of the things that make it, and that story is not isolated, right? I think I can relate. One of the things that are so difficult about our generation and our era of self-awareness, I mean, here in the books that we read. Yeah. They tell us what we should accept, what we shouldn't accept, etc. But my mother has accepted it. My grandmother has accepted it.
That's actually what she said. She said at a deep subconscious level.
Generations I can't even mention have accepted it. True. And so when you come here and you say, I am a bloodline breaker, challenge. You will see flames within and externally. Absolutely. Because it's not a natural reaction. When you leave a place that you have never seen anyone leave, and the books are saying you should leave, there's a whisper that will say, who do you think you are? True. Who have you ever seen leave? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's a fight. Yeah. It's a fight of our lives, actually.
Absolutely.
To be aware of these traumas, and I mean, we have buzzwords. Traumas, gaslighting, wounds, all of those things. We know them. We see them every day.
Yeah.
To actually do the work
is absolutely difficult.
Yeah.
That's exactly what the lady said. She's like, because I was like, really? So with that level of self-awareness, you still find yourself in places where you know that you are not meant to be there. And she was like, that's because at a deep subconscious level, my inner child has accepted that this kind of thing is absolutely okay.
Yeah.
I've not seen anything different. And although the adult me right now understands that this is not something to accept, the inner child, because that's all they've ever known, keeps settling for that same thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. Kanye, this is actually a lot. I think I even want to change how I'm sitting, because this is a lot. Yeah, so for someone who is saying, I hear you, I understand you, but unfortunately, it's just a lot. I don't know what to do. Like, where do we begin?
Yeah.
Where do we begin?
My favorite relationship therapist, Esther Perel, has a podcast and it's called Where Do We Begin? So I love that question.
Yeah.
Where do we begin? We begin at season 1 of the Legacy Collective, right? And this is the healing and discovery season.
Okay.
And this is the analogy of season 1. One great man once said, if you sleep during the day, your children will have nowhere to sleep in the evening.
Absolutely.
If you don't work during the day, you'll have nothing to eat in the morning.
Absolutely.
And my question was then, what would possibly make a person not to work during the day? Why would someone just choose to sleep
during the
day when other people are working?
It's a valid question.
Right. Yeah. And this took me to the morning. So what could possibly be in the morning that didn't allow someone the energy to work? Maybe they had a bad morning routine. Maybe they ate food from yesterday
that make them sick.
Maybe they woke up late.
Yeah.
Right. And so how I think about the morning, the day, and the evening is life stages.
Okay.
Right. So the morning is your birth to about 29 years, and the day is your 30 to 60, and your evening is your 60 to Chile time when the sun goes down, right? And so I want us to think about those 3 life stages that way. And so what is it that shows up in your day while you are trying to build that business and make that money? What is there in your morning is showing up in your day? Is it the money wounds that are showing up? Is it the generational money traumas? Is it the cases that are showing up there? You are toiling, you are working hard, and things are just not coming together. And this always, if you look at it and if you go search it, goes back to your morning, trying to build a marriage, right? And your morning has a lot of trauma, a lot of wounds, abuse, etc. And if you go and look into the morning, you will find that the avoidance style that you have, the amount of time you spend trying to keep other people at bay and away from you comes from your morning, right? And even as a society, we can't even keep it at a personal level. As a people, our morning is horrific.
Yeah.
You look at how things happen in corporate, how women are being treated, etc. It all stems from the morning.
Yeah.
And in this season, we are saying, can we go back to the morning? Can we look at things that are showing up in our day, heal them, discover them anew, so that when we have the evening,
we show up.
We show up better.
Yeah.
And it's not an easy thing, because in your day, you are trying to raise children. You are trying to build a business, build social capital, etc. And again and again, the things that were wrong, that were bruised in your morning will always show up. Right? So we're going to have authors, people with authority, people that have gone through and understood for themselves what their morning looks like. And we're going to have conversations. And these conversations, I'm hoping, are going to be conduits of healing, of discovery, so that people can show up better, so that the legacies we're trying to build are not defiled and they're healed. Right? When you sit and say, in my evening, when I look at my children, who, by the way, my evening will be their day.
Yeah.
I will look at my adult children who are not trying to heal from me.
Yeah. Ooh.
Right?
Yeah.
Who are not trying to run away from poverty that I caused. And sometimes you will go back into your morning and ask there, who let the dogs out? And when you get to your morning, you will find people that say, Maxine, ask someone else. It's not me.
I don't know.
And then you'll have to go back to your yesterday. So yesterday is your pre-morning, your pre-life, right? And there you will find people that have made confidence and built altars that you know nothing about. Right? The person will say, I thought this is how it's done. This is the culture of this place.
And what I thought at least in that time was right.
Yeah. So I remember you telling me about your grandfather and how he comes from a different...
Truly the love of my life.
Oh, okay. You need to meet the real love of your life. Stop putting your grandfather the love of your life. Tell us that story.
But yeah, wow. I think my grandfather was one of the most open-minded elderly people I have ever met in my life. So I think I love the fact that he allowed me to choose the things that I wanted to do.
Okay.
Right? Like you said, you speak about our pre-mornings, right? And that's where covenants were built up that we know nothing about, and choices were made. You know, people made certain decisions, right? And decided to take certain paths that they had carved out for themselves. And obviously, in a conventional world, then I guess in my grandfather's instance, he would have said, okay, this is the way that I've carved out, and I think this is where you need to go. But he did not do that.
Yeah.
He was of a different spiritual stance.
Yeah.
Right? And I remember us having the conversation that, oh, I'm actually a Christian.
Yeah.
I've accepted the Lord as my personal Lord and Savior.
Yeah.
So they're just things I cannot do.
Sure.
And in my mind, I was expecting, oh my gosh, I wonder what he's going to say. It's over for me. But he looked at me and said, so you don't do 1, 2, 3. And I said, yes, sir. I don't do that.
So let me throw a curveball there.
Yeah.
It's great that your grandfather was liberal, right? On a physical
level.
Right? Allowed you to say, this is the religion that you are choosing. Mm-hmm. This is what I would allow you to choose. Mm-hmm. But here's the truth. In his choosing, previously, in your pre-life, he has built covenants and altars that he serviced for his whole life. Yeah. Right? And those form part of your bloodline, too. And unless you are fully aware and you choose that because I've chosen this denomination or this religion, I need to build a new altar for myself. Mm-hmm. Because, that altar actually is going to speak. Actually get in your day for as long as you can, and whether you want it or not. Whether you so, for instance, my grandmother that was married to my grandfather was actually a traditional healer, right? And I think what I love about my family is the respect that we have. And I think I grew up with this thing, you don't have to understand someone's choices, but you unfortunately will always have to respect them, right? Yeah. And after my grandmother passed on, I then meet this random guy on the street, right? And he says to me, I know your grandmother was a healer, and you need to be the one who then takes over the reins, right? And I think it's in that moment that I realized that irregardless of what I've chosen, my bloodline will always place a demand on you. You know, I'm for spirit donors, don't make hair. I was like, sure, so I've chosen this thing, and my grandfather has allowed it, even though he was of, went to a different denomination in terms of church, knew God, loved God, in his own way, right? And when that happened, I was like, so wait, there's always going to be a demand that is placed on my life because legacies. And I was like, okay, but that's a lot. I thought the choosing was enough. Like I'd chosen something The choosing is great. Yeah. And people must choose. I think one of the most dangerous things is also living on the fence. Please choose. But once you've chosen, go all in, build.
Yeah.
Right. And look, even what we are building, someone else is going to look at it and think, not really.
Not really.
They're going to have to build their own. And that's okay.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what we are saying here.
Yeah.
We are saying it's great that you were able to carve out a path for yourself. Go interrogate what that path was made of. And this goes even beyond just you and your grandfather, right?
Yeah.
It even goes to places like you are buying someone's business.
Yeah.
What is the altar of that business? What is it
built
on? Do you know what covenants are built on that? So let me give you an example. A guy came to my office the other day and he wanted to give into this particular course, right, in a particular organization. Yeah. And this organization is a religious organization.
Yeah.
And I asked him and I say, but why are we shifting out everything else and keeping the giving for this foundation, for this particular organization? And he said to me, when back in the 2000s, our house crashed because of the floods, and there was a church that took us in for 3 months until my father could rebuild the house.
Sure.
And I then said to that pastor that for as long as I live, I am going to give to that church, and I'll make sure that they never lack anything.
Sure.
That's a covenant.
Yeah.
Right? And he has built an altar of his business, of his family on that.
Yeah.
Because giving is refurbishing an altar.
Yeah.
It's wainisheja
Yeah.
an altar. So my question to him was, do your children know? Because years from now, we're going to be seated here and your child will be the chairman of this foundation.
Yeah.
And they can very easily say, yeah, this thing does not make strategic sense now.
Yeah.
Can go.
This fight is gone. This is the way it's
Now you've made a covenant with this particular, and it happens all the time in different denominations.
Yeah.
People have ukutwala.
Yeah.
Right? That's a covenant. There are people whose businesses, families are standing on that kind of altar. And when you come and you don't know what that altar looks like and what it takes to give into that altar, to refurbish it, to keep it alive, you'll have a problem.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sure. This is actually a lot.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, we speak about how things in your morning will always show up in your afternoon and ultimately, obviously, in your evening. I mean, even with my own story, the fact that I say, okay, my bloodline placed a demand, right? And I think there would have been a danger, right, in me saying, okay, I've chosen, and thought to myself, that is enough.
That is enough, yeah.
Because if we are being honest, that was not enough.
No, it's not. And it will prove itself over and over again that it's not enough. Yeah. Let me show you how unhealed legacies play themselves out from generation to generation. Humor me.
Yeah.
So let's use Naledi as an example, right? So Naledi's grandfather in the 60s goes to work in the mines, right? Leaves his family, which is Naledi's father. Leaves his family, goes to work in the mine because that's the only way he knows how to take care of his family. Yeah. He's never there. They don't see him the whole year. He comes once or twice a year with food and maybe sends money for clothes, etc. And that is how, and it's not even on a personal level, it's a systemic level. Yeah. We know that our great-grandfathers and grandfathers worked where they worked because the system was set up in that way. Yeah. And so because the system was set up in that way, this is what prevails for Naledi's father's life for a long time. Yeah. He doesn't know what fathering looks like from a
physical level,
point of view, right? From an emotional point of view, a spiritual point of view. They just know that if you're a father, you are buying people clothes, and you are buying people food, and that's it. You're not hugging them. You're not asking them how their day was. None of that matters.
Whatever.
And Naledi's grandfather dies late in his life, having had lived a painful life, right? Having not had money and was living from hand to mouth and so on. Right. So that's generation number one. Yeah. So Naledi's father dies. Yeah. Naledi's grandfather dies. Naledi's father grows up to be a man. Right. So now he's a father. He's Naledi's father. And this is second generation. Yeah. And as he grows, he has a family, he gets married, and he has no blueprint of what a marriage looks like.
Because the father was not there.
He lived with his mother. And they were basically living in a single mother household.
If we had to think about it.
If you were to be honest with it. Yes, there was someone who was sending them money in an end, and they had a father. But now he has no blueprint of one, building a marriage. Two, he doesn't know what it looks like to really lead people on a daily basis. And so they struggle with Naledi's mother, and eventually they break up and they divorce. Right? And now we are talking about generation 2 of the trauma of fatherlessness. Yeah. Right? And so here they are. Naledi's father goes to get married to someone else. Sure. Naledi's mother is broken. She's making ends meet. She is trying to date again, trying to get married again. Things are hard because society is not that kind to women, especially divorced women. Right? And so as time goes on, Naledi grows up, observes that, hey man, things are hard for my mother. Even the mother herself sort of has a detachment from the whole situation because it's a painful situation. Right? And then Naledi now develops what we would call a mother wound. Doesn't know how to relate to her mother.
Because she's probably so closed off.
She's closed off, but also the mother is closed off herself. Because she's also trying to deal with her own things. And she's broken and so forth. And so here's Naledi's father, far away from Naledi. Naledi knows that the father is there, the father loves her. But he's somewhere else committed to other people. Yeah. And she is an afterthought. He will bring the food and the clothes as and when he can, after he has taken care of his core business, which is his real family.
Yeah.
And that is the love Naledi grows up to know. Right? So Naledi goes to school, she does well, she becomes a corporate baddie.
Come on now. Come on.
She's an engineer, she's a CIA, she's beautiful, she's well learned and mannered and all of those things. And now we are seeing in this era a Naledi that's showing up. Relationally, Naledi is a woman who, for no reason that we know of, just keeps choosing men that are committed to other people. Whether it's a boyfriend or whatever, they keep choosing men that are not available for them.
Yeah.
Right? And one of the things that could have been happening there is that Naledi wants to get herself into a situation where she must be chosen.
Sure.
So that her inner child can prove to itself that she was not
never the problem. Sure.
That she was worthy of being chosen.
Yeah.
She was worthy of the father not leaving. Because she still has question marks of whether or not she was the problem. And why she was not cute enough for the father to stick on and hold on to the marriage. Because also remember, the father is there.
Yeah.
Naledi doesn't finish school. She goes on to do a PhD. Because she keeps wanting to be the best out of the father's children.
Yeah.
She's competing with ghosts.
Yeah.
That she doesn't even know. Right? Because if my father can't choose me, let me show him that actually he's missing out because he left my mother.
Yeah.
Right? And then let's take it a bit step forward. Naledi chooses married men.
Yeah.
For the love of God, she just wants men that are committed to other people. So a married man is someone who is far away, is committed elsewhere.
Yeah.
Will come to you as and when they can, tell you they love you, make you believe they love you, and give you whatever there is to give at the time. Same story.
Yeah.
And that's the love she knows.
Yeah.
And that's the love she's willing to carry. And then we will come and say, and call Naledi names.
Yeah.
And say, we listen, we don't judge. And we will judge in retrospect. Right? And while we judge her, call her names, we don't realize that she has got her own traumas.
Yeah.
And these traumas keep coupling up.
Yeah.
Right? And so even in her career, in her business,
sure,
Naledi shows up in a way that is one of hustle. Do you know those people who, and look, I admire women that just want to have side hustles.
Yeah.
I admire them.
Yeah.
I think I'm one of them. That just want to try this business, try that thing, try that. My question is, from which place are you doing it?
Yeah.
Naledi, because she has seen her mother struggle, her internal disposition is, men will leave you in the desert.
Yep. So you better have options. You better
have options.
You better have a
career coming. Their hustle is not from a good place.
Yeah.
Right? They are constantly, hey, when there is stock fell here, they are there. We're selling a product, they're there. And please, women must do that.
Yeah.
And on the surface, we call it economic empowerment.
Yeah.
Right? When someone is really just trying to hide from danger.
Sure.
And here's the thing, there are other Naledis. We can couple a Naledi, a Tenyeko, a Mandisa, who have the same story, end up in different places. Because a Mandisa who's married, right, might have the same disposition that says men will leave you in the desert. Right? And while they should be submitting and being makanda in their marriages, they are forever alert.
Yeah.
They are forever waiting for the day this guy's going to leave.
Yes.
Because they've seen it paid out and they don't want it.
Sure. Yeah.
Right? And then we will call Naledi names. We'll call Mandisa names. We'll call the Niko names.
Absolutely.
And we will say they're loose, they're this, they're that.
Yeah.
And by the way, we are talking about Naledi because she is our protagonist.
That's the word.
That's the word. The protagonist. Okay. But there's also the married man.
Yeah.
We will not take responsibility away from the married man.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the things that have made him to find himself in this story. Right? And if we had to go there, we'll sit here a long day.
Yeah.
If we had to go there, we'll sit here the whole day.
Yeah.
So we're not going to go there. But we're also acknowledging that this thing, everyone has it. Not just Naledi. Right?
Absolutely.
And so here's Naledi. Naledi goes on with this relationship, falls pregnant.
Oh dear. Oh dear.
And don't think that Naledi hasn't been approached by men that are available.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, she'll push them away. She will make every effort to self-sabotage.
Yeah.
Because that's not the love she wants. That's not the love she knows.
Yeah.
Right? Now she's pregnant and has this child. Let's say it's a son. Right?
Yeah.
What Naledi has done is she has perpetuated a pattern of fatherlessness in her own child's life.
Yeah.
Now she has a child who, we know this by now, the man is not going to leave the family for this child. Now she has a child who has been taken care of from a distance, if at all they're taken care of. Right? Who, now the mom guilt comes in.
Yeah.
And Naledi is now saying, I will make sure that my child doesn't go through what I have gone through. My child has everything. But those things are not being tackled from a healed place.
Yeah.
And so that is going to perpetuate the same thing. And what you see with those kind of children is that because you are overcompensating as a parent, because you know what you did is wrong.
Sure.
You know that you shouldn't have gone that route.
Yeah.
Your child deserves better. And then you start to spoil them. You now have kids that take drugs. Kids that can't be told anything, that have no backbone, no reasoning for anything. And those are supposed to be the leaders of our generation.
Yeah.
2000.
Hi.
Yeah, you did good. And so I'm just trying to show you how this ripple effect goes on and on.
Yeah.
And from a social legacy point of view as well. Because the lady is educated, she is vocal, she knows how to speak good English, will go on to social media platforms. And her and Tinyeko and Mandisa, who have the same life outcomes, will come together and form a narrative.
Mostly what happens.
And that narrative would be so widespread that it becomes culture. It becomes permissible. It becomes something that we do now. Dating someone who is someone else's husband, it's not that deep. Hi, come on, it's not that deep, right? We will have artists that make songs about it.
Yeah.
Right? We'll have artists that...
And you think you go, what?
What's the song? No, there's a lot of them.
But a current what? I want to say what you want my lapa. Muna working bo.
Yes, so Buna lady as a point of consolation, because what you can't conquer, you try to create space for it in society, in families, and within your own spirit. You'll make you'll tell yourself, no. When a man comes to me, I don't have vows with their wife.
Sure.
I don't owe their wife loyalty. Right? And ripple effect.
Yeah.
Marriages are broken. We're not going back to the same circle. And look at how now marriages are voluntarily broken. While in the 60s, when we started this conversation, in the first generation, marriages were strategically and systematically broken.
Yeah.
Now we're just breaking them willingly for no reason.
Yeah.
And so now we've got a social legacy that looks this way, because one of the things that you need to think about is that the devil plants brokenness, trauma, and bloodline wounds inside culture. All he needs to do is plant it now about marriage. And then for the rest of the 4 generations, it just plays itself out.
Sure. I cannot imagine what marriage would look like in 10 years. If now it is so acceptable.
And now it's an option.
Man, now, if now marriage is an option, like I can choose to be in this thing or not, even if I made vows, it will probably not be necessary.
Yeah. I had a divorce lawyer on a platform who was saying marriage is actually one of the most dangerous things you will ever do. Even if it's as dangerous as bungee jumping, the chances that you will die from bungee jumping are not as high as the chances that you will divorce.
Yeah.
Imagine.
Sure.
So these narratives are played out in public, and we start to craft a narrative that says it's culture now.
Yeah.
People can do this. It's the things that we found here. Yeah. And they're saying, Mamang took a stembu, Mamang did it. These things might have started as someone else not being able to conquer an addiction, a lust, or whatever, and then they made it into a culture.
Yeah.
And then it was passed down to us. And we then pass it down.
And
it's so difficult to question the things that were passed down. I had a conversation with my father the other day, and he was not happy. I asked him about naming children after other people. And I asked him why we do it. And he said, no. It's Africanism. It's what we do.
It's what we do.
And I looked at him and I thought, that's not enough. No, Shadi. You can't just say, you guys, what we do. At least say, this is where it came from. This is what my grandmother did. And then I will decide, informed, that this is something I'll take on. So the reason why we carry on with unhealed legacies is because it's also very hard to question them. And because confronting is equals to disrespect.
Sure. Yeah. Because oftentimes, shame, our parents don't have the capacity to sit with us and deal with the things or the questions that we have.
Yeah. So sometimes we'd rather not ask.
Yeah.
Just leave it as it is.
It becomes even more dangerous,
damaging. Because look at Naledi's story. That ends up here. Started in the mines.
Yeah. Sure.
Started in the mines decades ago.
Someone could have decided.
And someone along the line could have said, but hang on. This is a wrong line. Here, there's a pattern here. And look, history does not repeat itself. It is the pattern that creates a rhythm. And that rhythm we keep dancing to because it is familiar.
It is familiar.
So what you do is that you recognize the rhythm and you disrupt it. Is it easy?
No. I mean, like even the recognition of the rhythm is not easy.
And it's what you were saying earlier that you know the traumas, you know the boundaries you must set at the end.
Yeah.
Those things are the rhythm is engraved inside you. Do you remember Sister Bettina?
Sister Bettina!
In the 90s?
I do.
If we played Sister Bettina right now, all of us in this room will go, hey. Yeah. Because for some reason, it doesn't have value for support. I see that it was dance. It has a play. And right? And that's how these things work. You have a rhythm of something that is so familiar to that.
And your body's just inclined to say,
yes, because at some point it was given to you, imprinted in you, and it's going to take a lot to try and pull back.
But are we doing? Is there something we can do to make sure that we pass down legacies that are healed? You know, I loved what you said, that when you had a conversation with your father, you were like, okay, that's not enough because I wanted to make an informed decision.
Yeah.
So how do we then get to a point where we pass down legacies that we have tested, right?
And have tested.
And have healed.
Yes.
So that we actually are content enough and confident enough to say this is something that's worth being passed on to another generation.
Absolutely. One, we're not doomed. There's grace. The reason we are sitting here together today is because there's grace.
There's grace, absolutely.
Right? Is healing legacies easy? No. You know what's easy? Going to therapy and healing for yourself is easy. Oh, that's easy. Going to therapy and speaking with a therapist about what your father has done, what your mother has done, that's easy because it's just you and them in the room. What we are attempting to do is generational healing.
Yeah.
Look, which includes other people. A few weeks ago, actually, me and my coach decided that we're going to do something. I had to do something that has to do with generational healing, right? This thing had to do with my own actions that I had to acknowledge come from other people's actions and decisions, but I was responsible for cutting down whatever it is that got us to this place.
Yeah.
That was so hard.
Just imagine.
I had 2 days of diarrhea. Just thinking about doing it. I didn't want to do it. I don't know how many times I wanted to call my coach and say, I'm not doing it. Right? And the generational healing involves healing even other people's actions.
And I think it's so important because oftentimes we focus on just healing us. And tend to forget that our lives are interlinked to those around us. Like we need to bring these people along on our healing journey because it doesn't help to be healed alone and still live with people that are...
But it's not easy to walk into a room and say, so here's what we're going to do. Right? It's not easy.
Yeah.
Because people are not at the same wavelength as you. So you're not going to walk into a room and say, so I've been doing some healing work, and therefore we are all healing.
Mhm.
Oh no.
I demand
That demand that we
that.
heal. But also what you're demanding from people is that they face themselves.
Yeah.
They face their yesterday and the things they have done. Have you watched shows that confront women about the paternity of their children? Shows that confront people about the things that they have done in the past.
I've watched Tata.
Those I was avoiding to say what it is. Those things are painful.
They are.
Those things are painful because you involve other people.
Yes.
Right? If we had to have a dialogue as a people, we would have to bring in other people that have abused us.
Sure.
As Black people.
Yeah.
If we now had to say, okay, we are healing as a nation. We no longer want to be this and this and that.
Yeah.
Who hurt us? Do you think those people that hurt us want to confront the things they've done? They don't. So we're just going to be passive-aggressive in corporate.
Yeah.
And act like I love Mariki, but I don't. Because I can't heal.
Yeah.
Because Mariki never gave me the apology that I'm looking for. And so that's how hard it is to try and heal generation.
Yeah.
There's grace, man. There's absolutely grace.
Wow. I'm literally just so gobsmacked because I'm realizing just how deep this thing goes.
Yeah.
That it is so deep. But I'm glad that there actually is grace for us to heal, and pass down tested and healed legacies.
Definitely.
Right?
Yeah.
And I hope that this platform does not become one of those platforms where we talk. I think when you explained the third the third part of what the collective is all about, that's literally what got to my heart.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, we often, like you said, it's easy to sit here and talk.
Yeah.
We can talk till tomorrow, child.
Yeah.
Right? But
you and I especially.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I love how this platform will afford people a place of conversation, but also resources to take action and sit with themselves so that the legacies that we pass down are tested and healed. This is a lot, but I'm glad there's grace. I'm glad that there is a way forward. And I think I'm particularly interested in what your desire is for the Legacy Collective.
So my desire is threefold.
Mm-hmm.
My desire is for the Legacy Collective as a community.
Mm-hmm.
And my desire is that these conversations and the resources we put forward meet the heart and the minds of ready writers of destiny. People that will understand that we will need to write and rewrite our legacies. People that understand that we are going to have to T-Pex and erase some of the things that we found. Yeah. We're going to have to accept some of the things we can't erase. And we're going to develop new fonts, new colors, new highlighters that we're going to start writing anew. A legacy we will be proud to bring forward to other people and to pass on to other people. So that's my desire for the Legacy Collective as a community. Yeah. My desire for the Legacy Collective as a platform is that it becomes a place where people don't just come to talk.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've got enough of that.
Yeah.
Right? And I think I have made myself a conduit for people to come and get the healing they require, the conversations they require to prompt them to get where they need to go. My biggest desire for this is that it becomes a place 5 years from now, 10 years from now, where you can come and sit when the season has come for you to come and sit. Because seasons change. Yeah. Life experiences change, right? You may know grief now, you may not know it. Yeah. You may be going through this season or that season, and you may be watching this and thinking, this doesn't really relate to me. A season may come. Yeah. And my prayer is that that person is able to come back here and sit with this that we have created and find answers for themselves as far as they can. Yeah. And get the help that they require. Yeah. So that's my second wish for the collective. My third wish is for myself. And the wish I have for myself is that I take the posture of John the Baptist. So John the Baptist is a man that was here to hold the space for Jesus.
Yeah.
A man that had come so that the Messiah can rise. And when disciples saw that Jesus was now baptizing people with the Holy Spirit, they came to him and they said, "How's that been?
Surely.
Aren't you shaking?"
I'm not taking.
And he said, "This is the one that's more preferred.
Yeah.
I have come so the Messiah can come. So I will decrease so he can increase." He was very self-assured in his purpose and what he was there to do.
Yeah.
Right? And the posture that I pray for myself is that one.
Sure.
That I come daily, weekly to this platform with an understanding of my nothingness in the eyes of God.
Yeah.
And that I move away and allow people to heal their legacies as it has been given to me. When John says he came before me, I believe that this platform, as we said, that Lendonge yetu sinigi has been there way before I could think about it.
Yeah.
And so I am here
It's preordained. Yeah.
because the platform had come before.
Yeah.
And I want that posture of John the Baptist to say, let I disappear and the work that needs to be done gets done. So that is my three-part-fold, that is my threefold desire for the Legacy
Collective.
Yeah.
I wish you that.
Thank you.
I wish that God gives you enough grace to actually assume that posture.
Yeah.
But I believe that there is grace, right? The fact that He has trusted you with this much of a big job, to be trusted with the vulnerabilities of other people, because it will take a deep level of vulnerability. People will need to operate in a deep level of vulnerability to confront things. And for God to trust you with that is so big. I wish you all the grace. And I wish that, you look back and you're like, I did assume the posture through grace.
And I always say that I pray that this becomes a clean and a healed social legacy of mine. Where when I meet my maker, he will say, "Well done, good servant.
Yeah.
You've done well with what I gave you to do." Okay, so if you're watching this up to this point, you are definitely part of the Legacy Collective. And my invitation to you is that you come on board and we heal together. I am looking forward to being your illuminator, your light bearer on this journey that we're about to begin together. And I wish you nothing but courage, bravery to take a step towards the healing of your legacy. From me, Khanyisa M, this has been the Legacy Collective, and I'm looking forward to running this journey with you. I love you.